We hope that all of you had a great 4th of July week. It ended up being a week with it being on a Thursday, which is great for you and the family, and I'm sure you're all back at it hard with your athletes. Wanted to keep continuing body movement information and things that I think are things that have been neglected at times to be used as key coaching points. I also want to reiterate to you the importance of, again, the posture issues. Without good posture, none of this stuff is going to be accomplished very well. I really focus on the offensive line part of the scenario. Not that other athletes throughout all sports don't have similar issues, but it's very important to look at your athletes and see if they are in good posture and then see how they function in good posture. It's important to look at their movement patterns and also to look at their physiques as to how, again, they may be limited because of their physique. For example, we posted a video from Boyd talking about his ground-based circuit, and he talked about the difference in like basketball athletes versus other athletes and their ability to squat and having a variety of tools in order to do that. Again, you've got to look at your athletes. For example, like I look like I should be able to squat very easily. But again, one of the things that a lot of times you don't see with my body type and other offensive line type body types is I have a very short torso and, again, long femurs, which again do not accommodate the squatting very well. So it's important to recognize that we won't go into all the different body type issues, but again, that's just one little thing here that I want to cover when I cover the next point, which is the body movement as it pertains to, again, the full movement of the hips and the knees. Going back to the squat, a lot of times you'll see athletes, particularly when they start overloading, they'll go down and then you'll see them when they start back up, they hitch and then they come back up. They don't hinge very well, and they hitch and butt comes up, and then they come back up from there. And this leads to a lot of lower back issues. One of the things that I would emphasize here to help, and a lot of people talk about the eyes being up, the head being up, chest, and all that good stuff, scapulas being pulled back. We talked about not only pull back, but drop down. But the other thing that you need to emphasize with them to take that hitch out is if they push through the lower abdomen, then again, they will help, again, keep that hitch. Like here, you start your push through the lower abdomen, you will have less lower back issues with that particular move or that particular position. So pushing through the lower abs not only helps your posture reiterate itself, but also it helps to keep from overusing the lower back and accommodating a good balance between the anterior chain and the posterior chain. And that's the key issue with posture is our inability to coordinate the anterior and posterior chain together. The better we do that, no matter what our athletic limitations, the better off we're going to be. The last thing I'll say about that is that also is important as far as knee movement. We talked about moving the knee forward and up towards the center line of the body, and we also talked about the hip doing the same thing. All right, we also want to talk about in the follow through the drive through the lower ab, and again, drive through the ground, okay, as hard as you can, and that will also force the activation of the glutes and also bring the hip and the glutes close to the posterior chain center as well. So you have, again, a nice arc of movement, which I think is another aspect which people do not talk about enough. We talk about flexion and extension, we talk about rotation, but we do not talk about arcs. The arc of movement is extremely important when we're talking about running and jumping and all those athletic movements, a change of direction. Arc of movement. So a lot of times the athletes do not get a good picture from our verbiage on what is the movement pattern. Too often they see everything we say as a straight line a bit of information. So keep in mind that we need to better explain and show arcs of movement for the athletes so that they will again move more efficiently. Efficiency is still the key. Some athletes are not as gifted as others, but if they have efficient movement patterns, they can again accommodate to the activity and accommodate to the skill or fundamental that you're asking them to do. Please do not forget the bow ties as far as help. We also need, I'm going to come back and talk about a few other things later that also go along with this balance between the anterior posterior chain. The other thing I want to emphasize is the B3 bands on the hips and the arms. I'm now doing I've done a lot of different protocols with this. I'm now doing a 2 a day for a while, where in the morning after I get done with my normal hour and 15, hour and a half workout, I come and I will do a 10-minute session, 6 minutes of it on the cross trainer, forward and reverse, and that has seemed to have real good benefits. But I'm also adding in now one in the afternoon as well. So sleep seems to be improving as well along with this. So we'll give you more feedback on this as time goes on and we experiment with this a little bit more.